What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Yellow Jeepin' YouTube channel and another episode of the Jeep TJ 1-ton build. On today's episode, we are going to be installing the Genrite front coil towers and our King coilovers onto the front end of the Jeep TJ 1-ton. Come meet me over at the table. We'll go over all the Genrite stuff. So we are over here at the table with Genrite's universal shock coilover hoop kit. It comes with some very detailed instructions, color pictures, everything you need to do this properly. So we will have our two hoops. We have our crossover bar. They give you brackets for upper and lower coilover mounting. We are using the Moto-Built coilover mounts on the Super Duty axles. So we will not be using one set of these. Plenty of gussets, different tabs to make this work on different applications, mounting braces for the actual frame itself, full hardware kit. So that's pretty much the entirety of everything from the Genrite Universal Hoop Kit. Very detailed. It came with my coilovers. I purchased them from Genrite themselves. So I'll have you guys meet me over at the coilovers. We'll go over what size they are, the spring rates, and all that good stuff. All right, guys, for the front end of the Jeep TJ 1-ton, we have remote reservoir 2.0 by 14 King coilovers. This is a 150 over 250 spring rate. That is exactly how Genrite set it up for me. Those guys were great to deal with. I called them, I told them what I was building. They built me a coilover setup with the coil towers and everything ready to go. So there's no issues or anything there. So Kings are gorgeous shocks. I don't have to tell anyone that. What we'll do while we're setting this up, we'll loosen this clamp here, spin it all the way to the top, spin our adjustment spacers, again, all the way to the top. So that way there's no pressure on the spring and shock itself. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our hoops built. I've already taken a bunch of measurements, so we'll kind of base off that. But basically 4 inches of ride height on this shock puts the body eyelet to eyelet at 27 inches. Same measurements I did on the back of the Jeep here. All right, so down on our driver's side and passenger side, we're running the Moto-Built coilover lower mounts. This is where the actual coil spring mounted on the Super Duty axle. Moto-Built makes a great little bracket that fits in here perfectly. You can bolt it in. I welded it on top of that just for extra strength. But we are going from there up to our hoop here. These are our little fish plates that Genrite gives you to mount your hoop to. And kind of the goal with this is I measured 1.5 inches from the end of this hole to basically the center of the tube. It's where I want it to sit-ish. And then we're actually gonna kick this hoop out about 15 degrees. That way we have room to clear the engine and all that stuff. One thing that I do wanna note before we get started is that you guys can see I've kind of set the grill back in here. That gives us a little context with where the hoop itself can go before it's gonna interfere with our actual grill here. So we're gonna be doing the Moto-Built high lines with the inner fenders. I'm gonna be buying blank so that way I can cut them however I need to fit the shock hoop in. But just to give you guys a little bit of context, the grill is in here to keep everything kind of consistent with where it needs to be. All right, guys, so you'll see some Sharpie lines on here. That's 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. Looking at how much we want to cut off here to equal our ride height. When we're sitting this thing on here, cutting 4 inches off is going to give us still the room we need to clear the engine by a lot because our hoop does bow over that. And it's going to get us right on par with 27 inches of ride height, because basically where the axle's sitting at is level on tires. So the height of the tires, which is about 21 inches off the ground, with a 40-inch tire to meet the center of the hub here. And we want to make sure that if we've got 4 inches of up travel, that we have 4 inches of clearance, which we have a little bit more than 4 inches. So we're keeping our center of gravity as low as possible while also making sure that we have enough clearance for everything here. So that's where we're at. We're gonna nip off 4 inches on these guys here. Both sides of our hoops have been ground to the angle they need to be at, and 4 inches were cut off to get that 27 inches from eyelet to soon to be eyelet. And we did that on both sides here. Now the next step is going to be to put our angle finder, which is right there, onto the hoops here, kick them out to 15 degrees, tack them on these plates. Then we'll go through and we'll weld the hoop to the actual fish plates. Guys, angle finding, this is actually a lot easier than it sounds. You're just gonna put your angle finder on here. It's gonna sit at 90 and you're gonna kick it out to 75, which is 15 degrees. So I am going to tack the fish plates in place just very lightly so I can pull them back off. And then I'll angle find this, tack the actual tube in place, and then we'll rip the whole thing off. Do the same exact thing on the other side, weld the tube solid all the way around, and then we can put the fish plates back on and weld the fish plates solid. So. All right guys, this one is tacked and kicked out at 15 degrees. So we'll go do the other side and then we'll pull the whole thing with the fish plates off, weld everything solid on the tube, and then we can go ahead and put it back onto the Jeep where we can weld it for the final time. Both of our hoops have their permanent home now. Right there at a 15-degree angle, both of them are set up. We have our crossover bar still to do, our upper coilover mount, which will go somewhere in there. We're gonna actually take a spring out of each coilover, put it in here, and we'll actually get this set exactly where we need it to be to match up to our lower coilover mounting point. We'll get that taken care of. We'll get our crossbar put in where we can be able to remove it so we can get the engine and other stuff out when we need to. And we're well on our way to getting the coilovers completely installed. Welcome back to day 2 of the shock hoop fiasco in the front. We're gonna get these finished up today. Next step, we have our upper coilover tabs that need to get welded onto the hoops themselves here. I have them bolted through the coilover. We're gonna suck the coilover down, get it set where we want it in place here, and then we'll get them tacked we get the coilover out of the way, weld them solid all the way around. All right guys, so we're over here at the driver's side. We're gonna go ahead and get our upper coil tower mocked up on here, tacked. Then we can pull the coilover off and weld the whole thing through. This may or may not be my second time doing this. Don't forget, you have to be able to get this bolt in and out. So that's why a lot of these guys are cocking these mounts up, so you actually have access to that bolt. So I'm just saying, you guys didn't see the first try, but I would venture to say that there was a first try with this, and I just ground my tack welds off. So just keep that in mind when you guys are doing yours. And remember, you can move this remote reservoir. It's not locked in place. I'm probably gonna shoot the reservoirs out the back anyway, but this way we can get our bolt out. So just remember that when you guys are welding yours on. But we've got a really good angle here. We're not binding on anything down here. The axle is gonna drop out, which is gonna cause the coilover to move backwards a little bit. Not as big of a deal in the front as it is in the rear with the channeled coil towers. So don't really have to worry about as much up here. But we've got our good 4 to 5 inches of up travel here, which is great to have in the front of the shock. I'm really happy with the way this is mounted right now. So we're gonna go over to the passenger side, do the same exact thing, make sure it matches up the same, tack it, we'll pull the coilovers out and get them welded through. Our mounts are exactly where we need them now. All we have to do is weld them solid. We will get our crossover tube across this. Got some finish welding and gussets to put in, and our front coil towers are ready to go. The crossover pipe consists of these tubes, and 4 little eyelets, so you could weld them on and then you can bolt and unbolt your crossover pipe. These sit in here like so, which is pretty nice because then you can kind of have them sitting while you're getting it fit up and then cut them down. So I've already measured this. Basically what I need to do is I need to cut everything but about 2 inches off the end of these little pipes here. That's gonna give us our mounting surface onto the shock hoop itself. Then we'll kind of get this touched up a little bit, get everything fitting in properly, weld our flanges on, and we're gonna be off to the races. I didn't film getting the crossover tube set because whoever invented these can seriously go fuck themselves. The magnets don't work at all. So these are tacked in place. I'm going to chop this tube to try to bring it down a little bit lower. All right, I pulled the grill back off just because we don't really need it on anymore. I got our crossover tube in place. What we're gonna do is weld both of our little rings, cut up anything we need to cut up still, and just generally clean that up. I'm interested to see whether that's gonna clear the hood or not. It's gonna be pretty close. So if it's not, I'm just gonna have to go back to the drawing board and bend a new piece. This is 1.5 inch chromoly tube, so. All right guys, that concludes the front coil towers and coilovers on the Jeep TJ 1-ton build. This was a super hard process. So if you guys have any advice, any comments, things that have worked for you, drop a comment down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.